Singularity proves that, no matter the era, shooting Russians in the balls is always fun. And when you throw in a horde of repulsing mutants and the ability to control time, things get a whole lot more entertaining.
They have harnessed the Singularity and claimed the future as their own. The only way to stop them is to take control of time itself.
Do a YouTube search for Singularity and you'll probably come across an announcement trailer that shows a guy in a futuristic jet flying into a vortex and crash landing on an island. That was the old Singularity when it was first in development. The new game is a little different. The main character, Nate Renko, does crash land, but he's in a chopper, not a jet, and he's a Black Ops specialist, not a pilot. Just FYI. The premise, however, remains intact. In the 1950s, Russian scientists discovered a new element, E99, on the island of Katorga 12 and used it for a whole range of devastating scientific and military applications. As with most Russian experiments, however, cheap shot, things backfire badly and the island's inhabitants are either killed instantly or transformed into hideous mutants by the explosion and subsequent radiation. The island is closed down and its research covered up for more than 50 years. Cut to the present day. Sent to investigate strange electromagnetic readings, Renko quickly finds that all isn't well on the island. Not only are there a bunch of really gnarly creatures roaming around, there's also a bunch of really gnarly Russians too, hell-bent on restarting the E99 research and unleashing its full power on the world. The time-twisting plot from here on in isn't anything spectacular, but the mixture of Soviet soldiers, mutants, a cast of NPCs who strive to outdo each other with stinker foreign accents, advanced weaponry and one very special power glove would make for one hell of a sci-fi show. Probably starring Mitch Pileggi. A couple of big boss fights and hectic set pieces help to spice up the action just when you think it's all getting a bit same. A weapon and TMD power upgrade system is a welcome addition, and if you can get past the decidedly less than next gen graphics, there's plenty to enjoy in your 10 to 12 hour blast through. The TMD, the time manipulation device, is your biggest ally in the game, particularly on your enemies. Just don't think too hard about how it actually works. Deadlock creates a bubble in which time crawls to a standstill. Gravity lets you pull objects out of midair, including rockets and grenades fired at you. Where was that ability, grav gun, eh? Impulse flings bad guys away from you and causes damage, force push style, and Age Revert allows you to turn enemies to dust in an instant. You'll also use it to solve a few environmental puzzles, shifting objects back and forth through time to get them where you need them to be. Timely, plot-driven upgrades ensure there's always something new to play with, and the range of powers means that how you approach combat situations really is up to you. There are a couple of legitimate gripes with the TMD and its powers though. For one, you're very limited in what you can actually weave through time. Crates, weapons and medkit caches, staircases, the odd piece of cover, a few scattered blackboards, and of course your enemies. Much like Star Wars The Force Unleashed 1 didn't really unleash what the Force should be capable of, Singularity doesn't give you complete creative freedom either. You can only mess with what the devs say you can mess with. You might see comments from those who haven't played the game deriding it as a Bioshock clone or a Wolfenstein knockoff. And those calls aren't completely invalid. There are definite shades of other games in many facets of Singularity. Yes, the TMD and its various powers will remind you of the plazas in Bioshock, for example, and plot fillers and backstory is given through scattered notes and audio tapes like the same game. It's definitely a Raven game too, with shooting mechanics and art styles very similar to Wolfie. We've seen controllable projectiles in Metal Gear Solid games and Heavenly Sword, and there are any number of games that feature bullet time modes where the action slows around you or you're able to slow down inanimate objects like exhaust fans. And we'll be buggered if those face ticks aren't dead ringers for Infection Flood. But the way we see it, Singularity isn't a copycat, rip-off or even unoriginal. It just borrows inspiration from other successful shooters and imparts its own time-shifting twists to them.
Investigation into E99 is proving more fruitful than I had dared hope. The most recent discovery is that the element can be used to change the time state of items.
Like a chick who digs surfing and video games and toilet humour, sporting super perky norks and legs till next Sunday, but a head like a python swallowing a pineapple, Singularity suffers from a serious case of butterface. Sure, she's got just about everything you could wish for. She's a barrel of laughs, a guaranteed good time, and she's got all the right equipment, but her face, yikes. So it is with Singularity. Seriously, Half-Life 2 on Xbox looked better. Loads of gamers will take one look at the gameplay footage on YouTube, scoff and reject it out of hand, and that's a real shame. Running on the Unreal Engine 3, which has been proven to be capable of much more, it's almost as if Renko had turned the TMD on the game disc itself. So much texturing, animation, modelling and lip syncing is out of date, it's more than a little off-putting. Thankfully, this is one of those cases where looks truly aren't everything though, and there's plenty of great gameplay to be enjoyed beneath its aged exterior. It's just a pity that a lot of people won't give it a chance. Being a sci-fi shooter, Singularity takes its duty to depict all kinds of grotty and disturbing imagery very seriously. There's no shortage of gore for starters, with both weapons and the TMD causing considerable grievous bodily harm to your human adversaries. While it stops short of Dead Space strategic dismemberment, you can still blow pretty well any body part clean off with a shotgun, high-powered rifle or impulse blast, causing ample arterial spray in the process. Using Age Revert on enemies is also a vicious treat, insta-aging some to bones and dust, Raiders of the Lost Ark style, and reverting others to filth-spewing monstrosities. And despite the overall lack of graphical polish, environments like face-tick nests filled with bulbous sacks of God knows what do look the part, and classrooms with corpses of school children hunkering under their desks with tiny hands protecting their heads from impending doom are unsettling, to say the least. Singularity features 2 multiplayer modes: Extermination, which follows the same rules as Bad Company 2's Rush mode, and Creatures vs Soldiers, otherwise known as Team Deathmatch. While this may initially seem disappointing, what it lacks in diversity of modes, it more than makes up for in a rockin' good time. There are many quite different classes amongst the two sides, and each also has a range of powers and perks to choose from. Interestingly, soldiers play in traditional first-person view, while creatures slug it out from a third-person perspective. In a single match made up of multiple rounds, you'll play as both humans and creatures. Technology, weaponry, and the ability to aim in first person gives humans the edge in battle, but the increased speed and agility of most creatures, together with the more expansive field of view afforded by third-person gameplay, ensures encounters aren't too one-sided. Small as a face tick may be, scuttling across the ceilings and walls, launching yourself on an enemy soldier, possessing their body and shooting their unsuspecting teammates in the back is a great laugh. And blowing chunks as a form of offense is always a good thing. Always. If Singularity was a movie, it'd be a B-grade sci-fi flick. But that's not a bad thing at all. It's not trying to be a AAA genre title like a Halo or another Raven game like Quake, but it's a lot of fun nevertheless, and it thoroughly deserves your attention. It's definitely recommended, but trying before you go a buying probably isn't a bad idea either.